Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we are going to be diving into something really, really interesting and I think super relevant for a lot of our listeners. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, me too.
So you sent us a handbook.
Right.
It's published pretty recently, actually, 2024.
Well.
And it's all about Web3, but with a really specific focus.
Okay.
It's for small and medium enterprises in Vietnam.
Got it.
So basically all about how Web3 can benefit businesses.
Makes sense.
Specifically in Vietnam.
Yeah.
So, and what's really cool about this is it's not just theory.
Right.
This isn't like, some abstract philosophical thing. This is like a practical guide for businesses that are like, okay, we hear all this Web3 buzz. Like, what can we actually do with it?
How do we actually implement this?
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm excited to dive into this with you.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how this handbook dives right into Vietnam's history with the internet. Thinking back to 97 when Web 1.0 was just starting.
Yeah.
Even with its limitations back then.
Right.
Those Vietnamese businesses who adopted websites and email early?
Oh, yeah.
They really got a head start.
Oh, absolutely. Like, those were the days.
Yeah.
Remember dial-up?
Oh, yeah.
That screeching sound to get online?
Yeah.
Makes you appreciate how far we've come. And all those businesses that stuck with faxes and paper catalogs, like,
oh, yeah.
they definitely missed out.
They did.
Big time.
Yeah. And the handbook uses this as a parallel to Web3.
Okay.
It's saying that embracing those early internet tools was crucial back then.
Yeah.
And the handbook is suggesting that understanding and implementing Web3 could be just as important for Vietnamese SMEs today.
Interesting.
It's like, Web 1.0 was a big shift.
Yeah, huge.
And they're saying Web3 could be just as big.
It could be a game changer.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Web 1.0. What about Web 2.0? I mean, Vietnam saw this huge boom in e-commerce and social media marketing.
Of course.
I mean, everyone's on Facebook.
Right.
Google is everywhere.
Everywhere.
So how does Web 2.0 factor into all of this?
Well, Web 2.0 was a huge force in Vietnam.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Right.
But the handbook highlights this challenge that came with Web 2.0.
Oh, yeah.
The dependence on big platforms.
Right.
Think about it. If Facebook tweaks its algorithm, Google changes its advertising policies.
Right.
Businesses can feel powerless.
Totally. And that actually, hits close to home,
Yeah.
Have you, as a Vietnamese business owner, ever felt at the mercy of, these algorithm changes or sudden policy shifts on platforms like Shopee or Lazada?
It happens all the time.
Those kinds of things can really impact your sales overnight.
Definitely.
It's scary.
Yeah, and that's exactly where the promise of Web3 comes in. It's all about decentralization.
Okay.
It's about putting that control
back
in the hands of businesses and users.
Interesting. Okay, so we hear blockchain
Right.
all the time.
Yeah.
And I think it can sound kind of intimidating.
A little bit.
But I'm curious to know how the handbook kind of breaks down this concept of blockchain.
Well, they keep it really simple.
Okay.
Think of blockchain like a giant public ledger
Okay.
that everyone can see, but no one can tamper with.
Okay, I like that, a public ledger.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's the foundation that makes Web3 possible.
Okay, that's helpful.
Good.
So to interact with Web3, you need a wallet, right?
You do.
And not the kind you carry in your pocket.
Right.
We're talking about digital wallets.
Exactly.
And these aren't just for cryptocurrency. I mean, they hold your digital identity, your tokens, your keys, basically, to this Web3 world.
Exactly. It's like your passport.
Okay. So instead of relying on usernames and passwords for each different platform, your wallet becomes your one-stop shop for everything.
Pretty much.
In Web3.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's a new way to connect and transact online.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's like email addresses were back in the early days of the internet.
Okay.
It's a whole new way to communicate and do business.
Yeah.
But with more control.
More control. Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about tokens and NFTs.
Okay.
I feel like those terms are everywhere these days.
They are.
How does the handbook explain them?
Well, handbook really highlights how tokens and NFTs can transform the way businesses interact with customers.
Okay.
It's about creating opportunities for actual ownership.
Interesting.
And exchange of value.
So it's not just about visiting a website or using an app anymore.
No.
It's about owning a piece of the action.
Kind of.
Like owning a share of the value being created.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay.
It's about taking it a step further.
Yeah.
Remember those static websites from Web 1.0?
Oh, yeah.
Then we moved to interactive platforms with Web 2.0.
Right.
Well, Web 3 is about taking it further.
Okay.
Imagine owning a piece of the digital world itself.
Wow.
with all its potential.
Okay, and the handbook gets specific with examples that are really relevant for Vietnamese SMEs.
Yeah.
Give me some examples.
Okay, so one they talk about is food tokens for restaurants.
Food tokens? Okay, tell me more.
So imagine, instead of just loyalty points,
Yeah.
customers earn these food tokens.
Okay.
That can be used for discounts,
Okay.
special menu items,
Right.
maybe even traded,
Interesting.
or used to vote on new dishes.
That's cool.
It turns those customers into more than just diners.
Yeah.
They become co-owners,
Okay.
part of a community,
I like that.
invested in the restaurant's success.
Wow, I love that idea.
Yeah.
That's way more engaging
For sure.
than a traditional punch card.
Yeah.
What other examples do they mention?
Oh, they also talk about luxury spa NFTs.
Luxury spa NFTs.
So imagine an NFT granting you exclusive access to spa services,
Okay.
maybe even transferable benefits,
Wow.
or the potential for that NFT to appreciate in value. It's a totally new way to approach loyalty programs
Right.
and engage high-end customers.
That's brilliant. It really changes the whole customer relationship.
Yeah.
It's not just customer anymore.
Right.
It's more like co-owner or member.
Exactly.
This handbook is full of really creative ideas.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so we have this blockchain foundation.
Right.
We have wallets and tokens.
Yeah.
But how do businesses actually beat on this?
That's where dApps come in.
dApps.
Decentralized applications.
Wait, yeah.
They're like the building blocks of the Web3 ecosystem.
And the key difference here is that they operate on blockchain networks.
Exactly.
Which means they're not controlled by any single entity.
Right.
So instead of being dependent on Google Play or the Apple App Store,
Yeah.
a Vietnamese business could create their own dApp.
They could.
What kind of dApps are we talking about here?
The possibilities are vast.
Okay.
The handbook mentions NFT marketplace
Okay.
for unique products,
Okay.
decentralized platforms for managing supply chains,
Got it.
even platforms that connect investors directly with entrepreneurs seeking funding.
Okay, so it's really cutting out
Yeah.
that middleman.
The middleman.
Okay, that's the idea.
Interesting. I can see how that would be a game changer for SMEs.
Yeah.
Especially in Vietnam where there's so much entrepreneurial energy.
Absolutely.
So what are the main benefits then?
Well, think about the benefits.
Yeah.
Lower operational costs.
Okay.
Because you're not paying fees to big platforms.
Right.
More control over
Yeah.
your data and how your app functions.
Right.
And increased transparency, which builds trust
Got it.
with your customers.
That's a powerful combination.
It is.
But I have to admit, this is a lot to take in.
It is a lot.
Where do I even start?
Don't worry.
Okay.
The handbook has a clear roadmap
Okay, good.
for implementation.
Yeah.
It emphasizes that Web3 adoption is a journey, not a race.
I like that, a step-by-step approach.
Exactly.
Yeah, it makes this whole thing feel a lot less daunting.
So what is this roadmap?
Well, it outlines 4 stages.
Okay.
Preparation, experimentation,
Okay.
implementation,
Development.
and development.
Okay, so it's really like taking you through that whole process
Exactly.
from start to finish.
Yeah, and the key is to start small test, the waters get feedback,
Yeah.
and then adapt and scale up as you gain confidence.
So it's all about learning by doing.
Exactly.
This is reminding me of those early adopters back in the Web 1.0 days.
Oh, yeah.
They were willing to experiment, to take a chance on something new.
Right.
And it paid off.
It did.
It sounds like that same spirit is needed for Web3.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And speaking of learning from others,
Yeah.
the handbook also includes some fascinating international case studies.
Yes, it does.
To show Web3 in action.
Yeah.
Let's dive into those next.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we're back and ready to dive into some real-world examples of Web3 in action.
Okay.
The handbook mentions a place called the Flyfish Club.
Oh, yeah.
What's that all about?
Well, it's pretty interesting. It's the world's first NFT-based restaurant membership.
Okay, so instead of just making a reservation,
Right.
you buy an NFT
Yeah.
that grants you membership
Exactly.
to this exclusive dining club.
Yeah, it's a prime example of how Web3 can be used to create a unique experience.
Yeah.
And cultivate a really loyal community.
And like tangible benefits.
Right. They're not just dining, they're
Yeah.
part of an exclusive club.
Right. I can see how that model could be applied in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Imagine, a popular pho restaurant in Hanoi
Well,
creates a limited number of NFTs
right.
that give holders like special access.
Makes sense.
Maybe a secret menu or priority seating.
Yeah. Could generate some buzz.
Yeah, it could really attract a whole new type of customer.
Definitely. That's a great point.
It's about thinking outside the box
Yeah.
and using Web3 to offer something truly unique.
Exactly. The handbook also highlights Starbucks Odyssey.
Starbucks Odyssey, okay.
It's a Web3 loyalty program built on Polygon, which is a blockchain that's known for being environmentally friendly.
Ah, that's important.
It is.
Sustainability is a big concern these days,
Definitely.
even in the tech world.
Yeah, it's a big factor.
Yeah. So what is Starbucks Odyssey all about?
Well, it shows how Web3 can reward customer engagement
Okay.
and incentivize interaction,
Right.
all while being mindful of the environmental impact.
I see.
So they use NFTs to offer rewards,
Okay.
exclusive experiences,
Yeah.
and even access to limited edition merchandise.
Okay, so it's taking the idea of a loyalty program
Right.
to a whole new level.
To the next level.
Yeah, instead of just points,
Yeah,
you're earning these digital assets
exactly.
that have real value.
And can even be traded.
Right. Okay, so for a Vietnamese coffee chain,
Yeah.
like Highlands Coffee or Trung Nguyen,
Okay.
imagine offering NFTs that unlock discounts or special blends,
Right?
or even a chance to visit a coffee plantation.
Yeah, you could get really creative.
It's a way to really stand out in a competitive market.
For sure, these international case studies are really inspiring.
They are.
But the handbook doesn't shy away from the challenges either.
Okay, what are some of the challenges?
Well, there's a lot of talk about security risks with Web3.
Right, and that's something the handbook is very clear about.
Yes, it stresses that security can't be an afterthought.
Right.
It has to be built in from the ground up.
So it's like having a vault
Kind of.
for your most valuable digital assets.
Exactly. The handbook even recommends exploring options like cold wallets,
Cold wallets.
which store your keys offline,
Okay.
adding that extra layer of security.
So if you're a small business owner in Vietnam,
Yeah.
just starting to explore Web3,
Right.
understanding these security measures is essential.
It's crucial.
Yeah, you don't want to lose your tokens or NFTs to hackers.
Absolutely not. And it's not just about protecting your own assets.
Okay.
It's also about understanding smart contracts.
Smart contracts, remind me what those are again.
Well, they basically automate transactions on the blockchain. Okay. But if they're not coded properly,
Oh.
it can lead to vulnerabilities that hackers can exploit.
So it's like getting a second opinion
Kind of.
from a specialist before you make a big investment.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And it's not just about technical expertise.
Okay.
The handbook also stresses the importance of having a solid legal strategy.
Right, because I imagine the regulations around Web3
Yeah.
are still being developed,
They are.
both in Vietnam and globally.
It's a bit like the Wild West out there.
It is kind of the Wild West.
Yeah, so it's crucial for SMEs to stay informed
Yeah.
about any new laws or guidelines
Right.
that might impact their Web3 projects.
It's like checking the building codes
Yeah.
before you start construction.
Exactly. You want to make sure everything is compliant
Right?
and you're not setting yourself up for problems down the line.
Makes perfect sense.
Good.
And beyond the legal and technical aspects,
Yeah,
I imagine good old-fashioned business savvy
Right.
is still essential.
it's more important than ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not enough to just jump on the Web3 bandwagon
Right.
because it's trendy.
Yeah.
SMEs need to have a clear strategy, a deep understanding of their target audience,
Right.
and a compelling value proposition
Got it.
for their Web3 initiatives.
So don't just implement Web3 for the sake of it.
Exactly.
Make sure it aligns with your business goals.
Right.
And adds real value for your customers.
That's good advice for any business, really.
It is good advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so the handbook encourages SMEs to think creatively
It does.
and explore a range of possibilities.
Yes.
So what are some ways that Vietnamese SMEs could actually use Web3 to their advantage?
Well, one area that's really exciting is fractional ownership.
Fractional ownership. Okay.
Yeah, imagine a group of Vietnamese farmers coming together
Okay.
and using NFTs to represent ownership shares
Okay.
in a valuable piece of agricultural equipment.
So they could collectively benefit
Yeah,
from the use of that equipment,
Exactly.
even if they couldn't afford to buy it individually. Right. It democratizes access to resources.
interesting.
Or think about a group of artisans
Okay.
creating a DAO,
A DAO, what's that?
a decentralized autonomous organization,
Okay.
to manage a shared workshop or online marketplace.
Okay. So it's like a digital cooperative?
Kind of.
Okay.
It's an organization that's governed by rules,
Yeah.
encoded in smart contracts on the blockchain.
So in this example, the artisans would use tokens to make decisions collectively,
Yeah.
manage their shared resources, and distribute profits fairly.
That's right.
Yeah.
It empowers them to control their own destiny
Yeah.
without relying on intermediaries or centralized platforms.
That's a fantastic example.
It is a good one.
And it's not just about internal collaboration.
Right.
The handbook also emphasizes the potential of Web3 for strengthening supply chains.
Absolutely. Imagine a Vietnamese coffee producer
Okay.
using a blockchain-based system to track every step of their beans journey,
Okay.
from the farm to the cup.
So consumers could scan a QR code on their coffee bag and instantly see where the beans were grown,
Exactly.
how they were processed, and even the farmer who harvested them.
That's the idea.
Wow, that's amazing.
It builds trust and transparency,
Yeah.
and it adds value for everyone involved.
Right.
Consumers feel more connected to the product,
Yeah.
and the coffee producer can command a premium price
Right.
for their ethically sourced, traceable beans.
It's like giving consumers a passport to the story behind their purchase.
Exactly.
And for the coffee producer,
Yeah,
it's a powerful way to differentiate themselves in a crowded market.
exactly.
These are just a few examples of how Vietnamese ingenuity is driving Web3 adoption.
It is.
It's a testament to the entrepreneurial spirit
Yeah,
and the willingness to embrace innovation.
definitely.
That's so strong in Vietnam.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
I'm starting to see the potential of Web3 for Vietnamese SMEs,
Yeah.
but I'm sure some listeners are still wondering if it's really a game changer or just hype.
That's a valid question, and honestly, the answer is it depends
On what?
on how well Vietnamese SMEs understand the principles of Web3 and apply them strategically.
So it's a powerful tool,
It is.
but it's not a magic bullet.
No. It requires careful planning,
Okay.
a focus on delivering real value,
Right.
and a willingness to adapt and evolve.
So it's not just about jumping on the bandwagon. It's about understanding the technology,
Right.
developing a solid strategy,
Yeah.
and using Web3 to address real business challenges.
And create new opportunities.
Exactly. And that's why the next part of our deep dive is so important.
Yeah.
We're going to explore the specific steps that Vietnamese SMEs can take to get started with Web3
Right.
and maximize their chances of success.
Let's do it.
Stay tuned, everyone. We're about to get down to the nitty-gritty. All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Web3 for Vietnamese SMEs.
Okay.
We've talked about the potential, the challenges, and we've even seen some real-world examples.
Right.
But now let's get practical.
Yeah.
How can a business owner in Vietnam actually get started with Web3?
Well, the handbook lays out a really practical roadmap, emphasizing that Web3 adoption is a journey,
Right.
not a sprint.
I like that.
And the first step, as they say, is education.
Makes sense. You got to understand the basics before you can build anything.
Right.
So what are the most important things
Yeah.
for Vietnamese SMEs to learn about?
Well, it starts with the fundamentals.
Okay.
What is blockchain? How do tokens and NFTs work?
Yeah.
What are the key concepts of decentralization of smart contracts?
Right.
These are all building blocks of the Web3 world.
And I imagine there are lots of resources available to learn about this stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The handbook even lists specific Vietnamese organizations and communities
Okay.
that offer workshops, courses, and even mentorship programs specifically for SMEs.
Wow, that's great.
And of course, there's a wealth of information online,
Right.
from articles and videos to interactive tutorials.
So whether you prefer learning in a classroom setting
Yeah.
or diving into online resources, there's something for everyone.
Exactly.
It's about finding what works best for you. Right.
And making the time to build that foundational knowledge.
Exactly.
Okay, so once you've got the basics down,
Yeah.
what's next?
The next step is to get your hands dirty and start experimenting.
Ooh, I like that. Get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, the handbook recommends creating a Web3 wallet.
Okay.
Get familiar with how it works.
Yeah.
Try buying and selling some tokens.
Okay.
Maybe even mint your own NFT just to see how it's done.
So it's kind of like dipping your toes in the water
Exactly.
before diving into the deep end.
Yeah, get a feel for the technology.
Right.
See how it works in practice.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to play around, experiment with different dApps,
Yeah.
explore different blockchain platforms, see what resonates with you and your business.
That's great advice. Don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
But at some point, you've got to start thinking strategically.
Right? Absolutely. As you're experimenting,
Yeah.
you'll want to start developing your Web3 strategy.
Okay, so no jumping on the bandwagon just because it's cool.
Right.
Yeah. What are some key questions that Vietnamese SMEs should be asking themselves
Yeah.
as they develop their Web3 strategy?
Well, the handbook emphasizes that you need to start by asking yourself,
Okay.
What problems am I trying to solve?
Right.
What opportunities am I looking to capitalize on?
Yeah.
How can Web3 help me achieve my existing business objectives?
So if you're a clothing manufacturer in Ho Chi Minh City,
Yeah.
maybe you're looking to improve transparency in your supply chain
Okay.
or create a more engaging experience for your customers.
Makes sense.
Web3 could be a tool to achieve those goals.
Exactly.
And the handbook also advises starting small.
Yes.
Don't try to do everything at once.
Right.
Identify a specific use case that aligns with your goals.
Right.
And experiment with a pilot project.
Exactly. So if that clothing manufacturer wants to improve transparency,
Yeah.
maybe they start by using blockchain to track the origin of their fabrics
Okay.
and share that information with customers.
Get feedback. Iterate, refine, and then scale up when you're confident in your approach.
So it's like testing a new recipe before serving it to a crowd.
Exactly.
And speaking of community, I imagine that plays a big role in Web3 as well.
It does. The handbook emphasizes the importance of connecting with other Vietnamese SMEs
yeah?
who are exploring Web3,
Yeah.
sharing your experiences, learning from each other.
It sounds like there's a real sense of collaboration and support
There is.
within the Vietnamese Web3 community.
Yeah, it's a really great community.
That's awesome. And it's not just about learning from your peers.
Right.
It's also about engaging your customers,
Yeah.
getting their feedback and involving them in the process.
Exactly.
Make them feel like they're part of the journey.
Yep.
It's about building that trust and transparency that's so important in Web3.
Yeah,
As we wrap up here, I want to acknowledge that this is still a rapidly evolving space.
it is.
So what's the best way for Vietnamese SMEs to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, the key is to never stop learning and adapting.
Okay.
Web3 is constantly evolving. New technologies, platforms, and trends are emerging all the time.
So stay curious, stay informed, and be prepared to adjust your course as needed.
Exactly.
This handbook provides an amazing foundation, a roadmap, and a source of inspiration.
It does.
But ultimately, it's up to each individual SME to take those insights
Yeah.
and forge their own path in the Web3 world.
And that's what makes it so exciting. The possibilities are truly limitless.
So if you're a Vietnamese business owner listening to this, what are you waiting for?
Yeah,
Start exploring, start experimenting, and start building your Web3 future today.
that's great advice.
This has been an incredible deep dive, and we're so grateful you joined us.
It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you.
We encourage you to keep learning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep innovating.
Yeah,
We can't wait to see what amazing things you create in the world of Web3.
me too.
Until next time, happy building.